Okay, everybody, happy Wednesday to you. I'm First Alert Meteorologist Rodney Harris, and we are in a first alert weather day. You no doubt know that it's already raining outdoors. Unfortunately, today will be one of those days where we'll basically see rain all day today. So unlike yesterday, where it was kind of hit or miss, you can see first alert radar on the right-hand side of your screen. It's going to look like that all day. Even if there's a break occasionally, more often than not, you will see rain. That rain will be heavy at times. So we're in it right now. This is a higher first alert weather day than what we saw yesterday, so keep that in mind if you are out and about today. I would say the biggest thing messaging-wise is if you can, try to avoid being out on the roads. If you have to, use caution. Our number one threat today will be for street flooding, which is pretty normal here in Atlanta when we get too much rain at once. In addition to that, there's also still a low risk but not impossible risk for some severe storms, mainly tonight going in the overnight hours. So let's take you to First Alert Radar full so you can get an idea of what's happening right now. Again, this is scattered rain, no storms at this point, but this rain, what you see on First Alert Radar, it's going to basically look like this for the rest of the day. I want to talk a little bit about the severe weather setup because it won't happen until tonight, and there's a reason why. So this storm system is south of us right now, southwest of us, and that's where most of the storm action will happen. Now, currently, we actually have some pretty cool air over North Georgia. We have what we call the wedge in place, which is basically cool air that moves in from the northeast. So we were in the 30s this morning, and we're only in the 40s this afternoon. It's very difficult to get storms or any kind of severe weather when it's too cold outside. So because that cool air is in place this afternoon, we believe that this will mostly be rain for Metro Atlanta and North Georgia this afternoon. Now, that red front that you see, that's a warm front that's in South Georgia, and we are forecasting that front to eventually move north closer to Metro Atlanta tonight going into the overnight hours. At the same time, that cold front that you see west, that's also going to move through. So the warm air moving in, that's energy that will start to move into North Georgia tonight after 8 o'clock. So that's one ingredient for storms. And then the second ingredient is that front itself, which is where you could also get some storms developing. So that's why we believe that it's mostly rain throughout the day with storms, at least the potential for storms tonight, because today it's still cool to where that warm air doesn't move in into tonight. This is our forecast model showing you the cold air. You can't describe it any better than this. This is at lunchtime today. You can clearly see that blue basically over all of North Georgia. Those are those cold temperatures that are still in place. It's really tough to get storms in this kind of an environment. But watch what happens as we get closer to 8. Notice that yellow, that bright green starting to move northeast toward Troup County, LaGrange, are in the low 60s at 8 o'clock. Heard County, Meriwether County, where you see that brighter green, that's slightly warmer air, and that's where the threat for some isolated storms will start in southwest, I can't say southwest Georgia, but southwest of Atlanta, Troup County, Meriwether County, Heard County. Then by 3 a.m., so this is the overnight hours, we're seeing 60s south of Atlanta, Jonesboro, Thomaston, LaGrange, all in the 60s. So as those 60s slowly start to creep northward, that's where your risk for some isolated storms will begin. And that's going to happen tonight going into the overnight hours, unfortunately. So where you see those brighter greens on our severe weather outlook, that's exactly where the yellow is. That's a level 2 risk of an isolated severe storm tonight going into the overnight hours. It's basically south and west of Atlanta. So Carrollton, LaGrange, Griffin, Peachtree City, Noonan, Tallapoosa, Carrollton, you are all under a level 2 slight risk of an isolated severe storm tonight going into the overnight hours, and it's because you will get warmer tonight, so you'll have a little bit more energy. I think it's also important to note that we are in these situations all the time, especially this time of year. We're going to have to watch and see where that warm air sets up. If the warm air moves in later, then the risk of severe weather will also be later. If the warm air moves in earlier, then your risk of severe weather will move in earlier. If the warm air moves further north, that severe weather risk may change. So it's a day where you definitely want to stay weather ready, because that warm air is what we're going to be watching very carefully. We know that that won't be around this afternoon, which is why we're really just forecasting rain. But tonight, the further south and west you go, the higher your risk, as you can see on that map, for seeing an isolated severe storm. We're not talking about a severe weather outbreak, but unfortunately, strong winds and even an isolated tornado or two will certainly be possible. So here's sort of a breakdown of what you can expect. This morning, it's just rain. By the afternoon, some street flooding will certainly be possible. This evening, Tonight, really, and overnight, what you see highlighted in red, it's your best chance of severe weather in North Georgia. Again, mainly southwest of Atlanta, but it's tonight and during the overnight hours. It's also important to know because most of us will be asleep tonight. That's when your risk of severe storms will be at its highest. So make sure you download that First Alert Weather app today before the potential for severe storms move in. I will say that all of this is out of here at 5 o'clock on Thursday morning. So as far as your timeline is concerned, yes, it will continue to rain in North Georgia all day today, unfortunately, but that rain will be completely over by 5 a.m. on Thursday morning. So as most of you are driving to work tomorrow morning, we'll be in much better shape. So that's the setup. That's what we're looking at. Rain all day today for everybody, unfortunately. This afternoon, this evening, and tonight, watch out for street flooding. We're under a flood watch. It's just too much rain in a short period of time. And tonight, after sunset, we will be watching for the potential of some isolated strong storms, especially southwest of Atlanta, that will carry you into the overnight hours. So your entire First Alert Weather team will be here keeping you up to date. That's it. That's your update as of right now. Just make sure and stay dry and stay safe throughout the course of your day today. We'll keep you up to date on this weather. We have First Alert Meteorologist Courtney Jacobazi, who will have an update on Atlanta News First at 9, and of course, Atlanta News First at noon. And of course, you can always get your updates in the First Alert Weather app. So there's a look at First Alert Radar. Now I'll turn it back over to Maria to walk you through your headlines for today.
Yeah, and weather, definitely one of those headlines, Rodney. Why we issue First Alert Weather Days is to catch your attention and then give you the tools you need to plan your day and plan for any weather that might come our way. So keeping a look at radar right now as we take you through some of your news stories, experts are urging for you to be safe while driving in the rain. And here are a few reminders. I actually wanted to show you First Alert Road Tracker right now as we kind of take you through Metro Atlanta, and you can see some of the rain from this morning that we captured both on air and online for you throughout the morning hours. If you were on the roads, you've experienced some of this yourself, here's a few reminders in the coming days, or day I should say. Be sure to slow down a little bit. I know we all have places to be, but it's really not worth putting yourself or any passengers you might have in dangers, as well as the people driving around you. Wet roads do reduce the traction on your tires, and they can cause you to hydroplane. Keeping more space between you and the car in front of you allows more stopping time. And then if you start to hydroplane, if you're already in kind of that boat of finding yourself in an unfortunate situation, do not panic, do not slam on the brakes. You want to ease off the gas and steer straight. Most importantly, turn around, don't drown. You hear that time and time again. If you come across a flooded road, do not try to drive through it. And the reason we tell you that is because you really don't know how much flooding you're dealing with until you're already experiencing it. So if you see a flooded road, just try to find some alternate routes or go a different direction. All right, I want to take you through some of the other headlines that we're following today. This one out in Fulton County, as we took you earlier this morning on Atlanta News First Plus under a courts and trials stream, inside of a courtroom where a mother is accused of facing a judge. She is accused of murdering her daughter and setting their apartment on fire to try to cover up the crime. Now, today's hearing was to discuss a trial date. That trial date did not get set today. However, they will reschedule to have another hearing, at which point attorneys are hoping to get a beginning start to when they can start delivering their arguments and remarks, and we can hear more about what exactly took place in this incident involving. You're taking a look at a mugshot photo of Nicole Jackson, and again, she is accused of killing one of her daughters, and she's facing arson charges for allegedly starting a fire to try to cover it up. Our Atlanta News First team is staying on top of this story, both on air, online, and in the free Atlanta News First app. All right, I have a question for you. Have you been feeling the effects of flu season? Because if you have, You are not alone. We are on track to see the most intense flu season that the U.S. has ever had, well, at least in the past 15 years. Doctors visiting drive-through flu clinics say that they have seen symptoms ramping up, and the virus has even forced several schools across the nation to shut down in some states. Mandy Gaither has more on how you can stay healthy.
For a second time this season, flu cases are climbing. So far, the CDC estimates there have been at least 24 million flu illnesses, 310,000 hospitalizations, and 13,000 deaths, including at least 57 children.
If you look at cases overall, it's the worst in many, many years.
43 states have reported high or very high flu activity in the last week. Nationwide, more than 30% of flu tests are coming back positive, and this season you can also test for flu at home.
We weren't able to do that. You could do COVID tests in the past, but now there's a 3-in-1 flu test.
U.S. health officials recommend the annual flu vaccine for everyone 6 months and older. About 44% of adults got flu shots this winter, the same as last winter. But coverage of children is way down at about 45% this winter. It's usually around 50%. Experts say it's still not too late to get vaccinated for flu.
Now keep in mind, if you get a vaccine, it takes about 2 weeks to actually get the immunity from the vaccine, for those antibodies to build up in your body.
To protect against all seasonal viruses, doctors say to avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth because germs can spread that way. Wash your hands with soap and water, clean frequently touched surfaces, and avoid close contact with people who are sick. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
I want to take you out to Washington, D.C. as lawmakers react to President Donald Trump's flurry of executive orders. Now in his 4th week, the president's second term has created a lot of controversy in the nation's capital. CBS correspondent Jared Hill reports.
After 3.5 years in Russian captivity, American Mark Fogel is back on U.S. soil.
I feel like the luckiest man on earth right now.
President Donald Trump welcomed the Pennsylvania school teacher to the White House late last night.
It's great to have you back.
Oh.
Gonna have a great life.
In 2021, Fogel was arrested at a Moscow airport for carrying a small amount of marijuana. His family says it was to treat back pain. The White House hasn't offered details on what the U.S. gave up in exchange, but said it's a sign of goodwill in ending Russia's war with Ukraine.
Not like deals you've seen over the years. They were very fair.
Earlier, during a meeting with Jordan's King Abdullah, Trump doubled down on his proposal for the U.S. to take over and redevelop Gaza, a plan that calls for Palestinians to be removed from the territory with no right to return.
We're going to take it. We're going to hold it. We're going to cherish it.
King Abdullah later posted on social media, rebuilding Gaza without displacing the Palestinians and addressing the dire humanitarian situation should be the priority for all. Meanwhile, in the Oval Office, Elon Musk, head of the president's Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, defended efforts to cut government jobs and slash federal spending.
We are moving fast, so we will make mistakes, but we'll also fix the mistakes very quickly.
The Trump administration is facing dozens of lawsuits challenging DOGE's cuts and its access to sensitive government files. Jared Hill, CBS News.